Welcome to Grit Happens. I'm Mindy Stearns, and to know him is to love him. I'm talking about my husband, CEO, founder, entrepreneur, businessman, husband, father, outlier, overcomer, underdog. This is Grit Happens.
All right. Well, thank you there, Mindy. I do appreciate this. My very first podcast, and I'm excited to try to see if I can't take some of the so-called wisdom that I have in this brain and put it out there to a bunch of people. So thank you.
You're in a whole nother kind of saddle, honey.
That's right.
I know you have tamed this filly. Well, no, actually, this filly cannot be tamed. So, we had this fun thing about doing a podcast. Of course, I started one with my best friends, Some and Then Some. And you've been talking about this for some time because as many people that are listening might know or remember, you recently starred in a very unconventional reality experiment through the Discovery Channel, the highly rated show called Undercover Billionaire, which was just a complete smash hit for them. It was one of the highest rated series, which followed you on a very unconventional journey. So why don't you start? I know you so intimately, but why don't you tell your listeners and your friends about how you started, who you are, how we got to this place. For those that maybe have watched a show and don't know your backstory, talk about who you are, and we'll get into all that in the course of this podcast. We're going to talk about you, your business, your principles, interview friends of yours who have been in this world, who have experienced grit in their own right. And I would have to say, you're probably one of the most incredible overcomers of adversity, and grit is kind of your middle name in some respects.
Well, I appreciate that. The show really kind of lit a fire under me for wanting to kind of get back in the saddle, so to speak, and really figure out kind of if I could touch base with a lot of other people and connect, because not obviously, I think that's the whole thing that most people don't get is when you see somebody that maybe is of means, and in our case, we live a very blessed life, but there's a lot that goes behind that most people don't understand. And I think when I look back on my life, you don't get here by accident. It takes a lot of lessons learned. Excuse me. And in the case of probably, I think when I look back on my personal journey, again, it's one that I am not ashamed of, but most people are surprised about. Growing up with alcoholic parents, we grew up there were bars on our windows. It was a very rough kind of part of town outside of Washington, D.C. And so I wasn't born with a silver spoon. I've always said more like a wooden spoon, probably.
I love when you say that.
Against my butt. But and growing up and kind of learning, I remember just being a young kid, and my mom would take my sister and myself in the car and say, "Let's go, we're going to get lost." And we go in the car to get lost. Well, that might have been because there were issues at home or whatever, but we were getting out of the house, and but what it did, it really taught me a great lesson about life. And most people get afraid when they get lost. Most people are nervous to go into the unknown. What we were conditioned as young kids was that it was fun to get lost because we had to find our way home. And so whenever I've become lost, I didn't look at it with fear. I looked at it with excitement. And so, those little things, when you look back, you say, adversity and hardship and all these other things, you can look at it and either be the victim or the victor, right? You can become someone that grows from it and learns from it. And so I think back to when I was young, another little thing, failing fourth grade. Well, that doesn't seem like a big deal, but, folks, if you have a kid and you're going to send them back, why don't you do that in like kindergarten when they won't remember? But fourth grade, you know you're a dummy, right? And so
You're so self-aware at
yeah,
that
you're
age.
aware.
Really.
And so that happened at that point. And again, I look at it as something today. I say, wow, I'm so glad I went through that, because you really learn to deal with different kind of pressure at a young age, and it helps you as you grow older. Eighth grade, I get to eighth grade, and I have a child. Again, a lot of people out there know that, but for those of you that are new to us or to myself, I was 14 when I had a daughter. And again, thinking something that would turn out to be the worst thing in my life, and how horrible it was, it became a wonderful gift and a blessing to have a daughter that came out of that. And so, just learning that, again, being conditioned that there are silver linings in everything out there, you just got to find them, has been a big part of my life.
You know what? Because we named this podcast Grit Happens, because there's so much to you. And if I could read the definition of the word grit, it says courage and resolve, strength of character. And, I could say that could be your middle name, because you have more strength and resolve and a very strong character than many people I've encountered over a lifetime. And these are some of the principles that you have built your life and your success on. And we're going to it's exciting because we're going to talk a lot about those principles, a lot of the principles that were highlighted in the show that we went over, Glenisms, as they call them. It is available on iTunes if you want to watch Undercover Billionaire. It's still out there and kind of fun to catch up. It's going to be a lot of downtime. People are going to have time to catch up on great shows, and it's a good one. It's inspiring, and it's very exciting.
Well, that's really the reason for me wanting to do this, right? Is I was surprised, not really about the show, because, I was excited to go out there and expose myself to the unknown and do whatever it took to try to succeed. I didn't know if I would succeed or not, but what I didn't realize was how many people really enjoyed the kind of that,
and the voyeuristic approach of watching you struggle and start again.
Well, yeah, but what I got more probably feedback than anything was when I was in the warehouse and kind of giving
recapping
and giving the little lessons, and that's where a lot of people got a bunch of good nuggets out of, wow, maybe I could learn from that, and so I think that has inspired me to say, okay, well, maybe, when you look at a lot of people out there, I think people are afraid to be vulnerable, right? Mm-hmm. They're afraid to
reveal all their cards,
allow
so to speak.
People to see the softer side of them.
Yeah.
And yet, again, I feel I've led that way by having issues like having a daughter young and other things, and then it kind of breaks those walls down, right? And then when you're vulnerable, it allows other people to be vulnerable, and then you grow and you end up becoming the relationship is deeper. And when you have a deeper relationship, things you tend to be able to get through things a lot better. People. And so again, going back to the show, exposing myself, I had, as you remember, everybody from John Elway to Richard Branson, that were supposed to be on.
You did FaceTime with Richard. You had John on the boat. You were like, they were supposed to be part of the show, but they didn't even make the cut.
Right. And they were both saying, you're crazy. Why in the world would you do it? And that to me was, exactly why I would do it, because why not? I'm 55 years old. Well, now I'm 56, but at the time, 55. And, you tend to want to, kind of tuck in and conserve and not take chances the older you get. And yet for our children, for our friends, for people that have probably seen me over the last 5 years, I haven't done a lot of, of that type of expanding my brain and taking chances, because I've had a couple other obstacles in my way.
And we're going to get to the health challenges that you've experienced, because I think that is also a very crucial element of your story. And but I think it's important to go back and like use this initial episode to really get to know you from the beginning. You're starting, like you said, in the 4th grade, and then having a child, and the elements that your mom took you to get lost. Kind of continue that storyline. Like, you were the first one in your family to go to college, and it wasn't really because you were excited about exploring your academia. Talk more about how you got to college.
You know, it's funny because when we go and I speak at colleges sometimes, you know, I want people to believe I was, you know, out there to get my education, but I was really following a girlfriend. And
what is the real reason you went to college? To follow a girl.
That's right. And I mean, I remember, I mean, you got to think.
But she got you there. You have her to thank.
She got me there, and 2 weeks later, she quit school, and I stayed.
And
which
broke
was
up with
ironic,
you.
I know. And she's still with her man to this day.
Thank you, Dee.
Dee Fowler, that's
Thank
right.
you, Dee.
And but what happened is, you know, I mean, you got to think, you know, I didn't grow up in a family that ever had gone to college. So I remember being out till about 1 a.m. with my friends, and the next morning I had to go take the SATs. You know, I'd never studied for them. I didn't know there were prep classes. And I got a 700 or a 750, now I don't remember, total on my SATs.
Ooh.
And I have never heard of anyone. I know. And so when I went back in to see my counselor, I said, I really want to go. And he looked at my transcripts. He, you know, said basically I could not go to college. And I said, I need to go. You know, I have to. It's so important for me to get there. Of course, again, it was just to follow a girl. But
that is, I mean, if you can talk about focus and passion and wanting something, like you had a focus. You were going to be with her no matter. Man, she must have been good.
He said, so my counselor said, listen, Glenn, if you may be able to get in, but what you'd need to do is really, I mean, get on the honor roll and really, you know, come off as what they might call as a late bloomer. I remember the exact words. And so I just did everything it took in 12th grade and ended up on the honor roll 12th grade. I had my best grades ever. And I got in.
You know what? That's a good point right there. I think that is also one of the lessons you constantly enforce in your life is it's not how you start, it's how you finish.
That's right.
And finish what you start. Like, you know, there's a lot of kids out there who go and they do so bad on the start and then they just like, they give up because they feel like, well, I've done this. But you are a late bloomer. You pulled through and you made it to college. Not too far from, you know, Elle Woods on Legally Blonde went to college for a boyfriend. No, you're not Legally Blonde. I'm sorry.
But I agree with you. I mean, it's not how you start, it's how you finish. And people, they remember you on the way out, you know?
Yeah.
So that's always been a big deal. And I don't know why, but I always remembered to, you know, to make sure I gave it my all with what I did. And, you know, getting into college and then immediately being on my own, because, again, she kind of left. I didn't have the same purpose anymore, but I realized I was going to, if I start something, I have to finish it. Again, that was something drilled in my head.
Where do you think that came from? Because that is not always, I mean, that had to have been developed somewhere. Where do you remember first, like, being really rewarded for a job well done that you stuck with something when you were younger? Because college is a big undertaking. So many people drop out or leave, or there had to have been somewhere along the way where you...
Yeah, I don't know that answer. I just remember always having it in me that if I didn't want to quit, you know, it's just
you're so, knowing you, I've been married to you at almost 18 years now, like you are one of the most determined people. Like in a competition, you will, like, you have a goal to get to and you'll like do these silly balls and you'll throw them and you'll go till you reach a certain number and you won't stop until you finish. Like you're like a dog on a bone. Where do you think that, have you always been that way?
I don't know. It's just, but I know that, you know, what's, you know, I think when people start and they think, how am I ever going to get somewhere so far down the road, right? You can't think like that, right? You can't think all of a sudden I'm going to be successful or I'm going to be good at something. You have to just take it one day at a time and build the confidence up, right? And I think it goes both ways, right? Because I don't think you just become a wreck overnight either. You know, I mean, both ways they start, and it's just a funnel. It either starts going up or down, and you can control that by how you switch your, you know, what you're doing, who you're hanging out with, you know, your habits and all those things. And so when I started getting recognition from people of things, I liked it. I liked the fact that people saw something that I might have done well, and then I wanted to do more of that, right? You want to please people.
Yeah.
I think
Feed
most
off
people,
the positive feedback.
right. And so that became something that was very important to me was, you know, when I had a couple people reach out and say that they believed in me. I mean, I was a wreck. You know, think about a 14-year-old kid that's had a kid.
I mean, you had to lie about your age to work.
I did.
Just to get a work permit.
I got a work permit, and I was
14, 15.
And before that I was working, but I was working for KB Toy Store.
Oh, that's right.
If I
You told
recall.
me about your feet.
And KB and the other something, I forget what it was, a movie place. But anyway, I did all those as a young kid. I was a dishwasher, but doing all those kind of things, you know, I got recognition, and I liked it. I wanted to do more and better, and you know, I went to college, and then I started a fraternity, of course, because it had to do with drinking and girls, and when the man that kind of helped us, he was the vice chancellor of Maryland, the University of Maryland. I remember the day he was in with all of us, and he did a little, you know, kind of a.
This is Drew
Bagwell.
Mm-hmm.
And he says, hey, why don't we all just talk about somebody we admire? And why do we admire them? I mean, it can be the president. It can be someone from the past, anyone you want. He says, I'll start. He says, I admire Glenn. And I was embarrassed. I said, Drew, come on. And then he says, I admire Glenn, and I'll tell you why. You know, and he went down. Okay, he says, anyway, he said he admired me, and he said, because I had a job. I had to pay for college on my own. My parents had gotten a divorce, so I didn't have anybody to really help pay for anything, you know. And so he ended up planting that little seed in front of, you know, my peers, and I didn't want to let him down. I didn't want to let anybody down. And those little things, I guess, are what kind of start that for me at least, the ability to say, I want to do better. Because I didn't start off right. Again, I was a wreck. I mean, I was drinking like my dad and my mom. I was, you know, I had an intervention in 10th grade from my teachers and my mom. Okay? I mean, I was...
In 8th grade, they're sitting you down, and the teachers are saying, you're out of control.
No, that was 10th grade. 8th grade, I had the child. 10th grade, I had the intervention.
2 years later.
And, you know, so these
no one can blame you, though. I mean, when you think about the circumstances you were presented with at such a young age, I mean, a lot of kids have, you know, that's a hardship. And how do you deal with that? And you had people around you, at least you had support around you to say, this is you're off the rails.
Yeah. I mean, I was lucky enough to have people say that I didn't recover very well. I mean, it took time. And so I guess the whole reason for this part of the story is, you know, going to today and you look back, you go, wow, you know, successful in business, got a wonderful, beautiful wife, you know.
Oh, she must be amazing.
She is amazing. And the life, it is great, looks great, everything. But it didn't come overnight, and I didn't get it handed to me, and I didn't have parents that were rich and, you know, that guided me properly. So how does somebody at home be able to say, I can do it, right? Because a lot of people say, well, I wasn't born in a family like you were, and I didn't have parents that cared, or my parents were divorced, or all those kind of obstacles that people use to say, I can't do it. Well, I'm trying to say, hey, I was there, and it can be done.
How did you pay for college?
I got student loans. I got Pell Grants. I worked TGI Fridays. You know, I mean, I did what it took to make it happen. I worked at the, you know, in the cafeteria. I did working in and going to school the whole time. So, you know, people have to realize, and again, if someone's listening and this is your first time and you don't know who the heck I am, you're going, this guy's a loser, you know, from what I'm hearing. And
well, you were called that. You were least likely to succeed. People didn't expect a lot out of you at one point.
that's right. And so, you know, learning that, and if you're someone at home that says, you know, I don't have a lot of, you know, have a head start, I don't have people that can help guide me. You don't need that. That was the whole reason again for the show. Mm-hmm. Hey, I want to start out with $100, and I'm going to go with no contacts. I'm going to go somewhere I don't know anyone. I don't have any money, and I don't have a place to live. Then I'm going to see if I can't make a business in 90 days worth $1 million. And so, you know, with just sheer determination and really my experience of bringing people together, and because you can't do it, no one can do it on their own.
No.
You know, it does take building a team around you. And that's where, you know, you look at people and you got to realize at any, I don't care if you're in 4th grade or you're 40 years old, you look at people and say, are these basement people or are they balcony people?
And that speaks to you, who you surround yourself in life. I mean, there was a time in your life in college when you were around some people, you were like, maybe this isn't the right crowd. I'm just doing the same dumb stuff all the time.
I did that.
And you kind of got out of that.
High school and college, you know, there were people that you knew there were the good ones, and then the people you knew maybe you shouldn't be hanging out with. And it's choices. And everybody knows. They do. You know when you're deep down.
Who is going to be your basement friends. You know who your balcony friends are. Are they pulling you up or are they bringing you down? Are they celebrating your success or are they trying to insult your success? And you know, you've been through so many challenges. There's a great quote saying, being challenged in life is inevitable, but being defeated is optional. And I think you never allowed that to be defeated as an option. You were scrappy. You fought back. You always fought back. Why do you think you always fought back?
Yeah. Yeah, maybe I was just had the gene of being hard-headed. I don't know. You know?
You got that. I will attest to that. Your dad, you got that from your dad.
I did. But
I love your dad, Gilbert. I love you.
But again, if this first podcast, folks, is for you to kind of get a little background before we get into friends and bring other people in and talk about subjects and things that help, whether you're an entrepreneur or whether you're married or whatever, but you know, a lot of work advice and a lot of advice that I think is just regular advice. Maybe we'll continue on that path because there's a little bit more after college, you know, that came, because I went out that right after college, I decided that I wanted to go across country with a friend, drive across country and just see California.
You and Parker.
Me and Parker. we were in Maryland, and we drove out. We drove out. It was Super Bowl week, and I remember we made it down to New Orleans. We watched the Denver Broncos against the Washington Redskins, and we were in Pat O'Brien's. I will never forget. I came out of the bar, and they had bashed our windows out and took everything out of our car. So that was tough. So by the time I got to California, I had like $25. I had to get my mom to Western Union. Is that still around?
I don't even know.
Yeah.
Something the young generation has probably never heard of.
But ended up in California. We knew one guy, and he lived in Costa Mesa. Because I remember we sat in the stoop of the Queen Mary and the Spruce Goose. It was out in Long Beach. And we were like, we can't go any farther west. You know, we're right at the ocean. Where should we go?
That's it.
And we met a guy. We knew a guy from college named Brendan, and he was in Costa Mesa. So we went down there. And by the way, we didn't know where Costa Mesa was. I mean, it could have been San Francisco or San Diego. It didn't matter. So we drove, and there was 4 of them, 5 of them at the time in a 1-bedroom, and then we came. So it was 7 of us. And so I slept in the kitchen on the linoleum floor for about a week. And then I knew a girl from being a waiter back in Maryland, and she was living in Corona del Mar. Again, I didn't know where that was, but it happened to be 10 miles away. So she said, come sleep on a bed. And I did. And she went to work, and found myself alone in this amazing place, Corona del Mar. So I walked down to the road right at the beach, and there were these homes against the cliff, and I sat on a bench and I looked out over the ocean. You know the story very well.
I do.
And I got extremely inspired. I just saw these beautiful people and fast cars and homes and just everything around me.
Pacific Ocean
made me think, I want this. Like, what is it going to take, to get this? And
that was the new girlfriend.
That's right. So I thought, I'm going to go, and I saw this man in his yard, and he was kind of just trimming the rose bushes or doing something. And I walked up to him. I said, what did it take to get this house? I know I can do it. Just tell me what it took. The guy's like, Senor, I'm the gardener. He says, I think the man's in real estate. I said, real estate? I'm going to get into real estate.
I'm going to do that.
That's right. And so I went back, and that next day, Parker said, hey, Glenn, let's start heading back. I said, I think I'm going to stay. And so I did. I stayed, and he went back to Maryland. I got a job as a loan officer. I had no clue what I wanted to do again. So not to be a spoiler on, having this wonderful plan all laid out, I didn't have one again. And but became a loan officer. I did that for about 10 months, and then decided I was going to open up my own company. It's a deeper story, but I did that with another guy, and we started a mortgage brokerage office, and start to build that. And you talk about something that could take 5 podcasts, because that career was hard. It didn't happen overnight, and it's similar to everything we talk about, right? Which is really time. I mean, it's just very, very slow as far as, you're not successful overnight. You go through many, many iterations of almost failure.
Yeah. Well, I like, just on a side note, I love, because your son now is exploring. He came home, pants on fire, wants to get to work, make some money, and you made him read a book. I thought it was a really good recommendation about the journey.
Chop wood and carry water.
Chop wood, carry water. And there's a really profound message in that book, which your son got when he finally read it.
Right. He was going to go off and be a millionaire in a week. And I explained to him, why don't we slow down and read this book?
And he did not want to read it. He was exactly the student in that book that came in that wanted to become a great archer, wasn't it? Something
right.
It's
the
such
samurai
a good story.
archer.
I love the story.
First, we will chop wood and carry water, and we will learn how to do that. Then we will learn how to stand. So it's just
so
about
many little
life.
Strong,
right, exactly. You got to just slow down and really just understand that things don't happen as fast as we'd like them sometimes.
One thing I notice about you, which is probably one of the most, one of the more profound principles that you live by, is you're really good at delayed gratification. And this world right now, everything is instant. Instant selfies, instant camera, instant now, instant this. You want fast food, everything. We're a fast food world, and everything. Amazon delivers the next day. Everything. How do you talk about delayed gratification? Because there's a lot of young people that want success, and they want it now. They want to get out of college. They want to be the CEO. They want to be this. They want to be making all the money. Kind of like your son, who is like our son, who is my stepson, who I love. Who they want it now, but you cannot have success. One of the greatest quotes I like, the example of a diamond. It's a piece of coal, but with pressure and time, does it become a diamond? Does it really truly shine?
Right.
And I think that can be applied right now. And you too. You went through a lot of pressure, a lot of grit, a lot of hardship, adversity, and time. Talk about delayed for gratification.
Yeah. Well, I remember the first year of having the mortgage brokerage business, we did well. We did a lot of business. And I went to my banker and I said, hey, I want to become a banker myself, and I need a credit line, $1 million credit line. And he said, you guys did really well. You made a lot of money. No, I can't give you the credit line. I said, what do you mean? I thought you just said we did great. He says, yeah, you spent it all. And I said, well, of course, it's my money. And he says, no. He says, your company needs to have retained earnings. You need to keep the money in the company. I said, why would I do that? Not having any clue. And he says, the stronger your company is, the more we believe in you. So we kept our money in the company the next year, and we got a $6 million credit line. I'll never forget. And so we went from, zero to this credit line to becoming a banker. And as we grew, I think when I sold the business, we had $2 billion in credit lines. I can't remember. It was a lot of credit lines. But in that world, you work off of, you pull loans together and you pull them into the hundreds of millions and you sell them to Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, those kind of things. And so it's all about the more you decide to save, the more you don't spend, the bigger you can get, right? So the more earnings you keep in a company, the more credit lines you can have. The more credit lines, the more you can fund. The more you can fund, the more you can make. So you're right. I mean, I realized if we don't take it out, the company will be stronger. Then our vendors, our bankers, our investors, the people that buy the loans from us, they'll all feel more comfortable with us because we are sacrificing ourselves for the company. We're not taking it out and living these crazy lives, even though it's all relative, I guess, when you're making that kind of money. But we kept the money in the company. We survived 2008, which was
there's so much
crazy
in business. Like, we've gone here almost 30 minutes now, and there's so much more to this story, and I want to go deeper into that, and maybe we revisit that in the rest of the story, because what I really like to read that there's that quote that you talk about, the donkey story, which I love. I'm going to read that to you. It's an incredible fable, so to speak, and I think this kind of personifies your life and how you've managed. So if I can read this story. One day, a farmer's donkey fell down into a well that the farmer had accidentally left uncovered, and the animal cried piteously for hours as the farmer tried to figure out what to do. Finally, he decided the animal's old and the well needed to be filled up anyway, so it wasn't worth it to try to retrieve the donkey. So he invited all his neighbors to come over and help, and they all grabbed a shovel and began to fill the dirt in the well. And at first, the donkey realized what was happening and cried horribly. And then, to everyone's amazement, he quieted down. A few shovel loads later, the farmer finally looked down the well. He was astonished at what he saw. With each shovel of dirt that hit his back, the donkey was doing something amazing. He would shake it off and take a step up. Now, as the farmer's neighbors continued to shovel dirt on top of the animal, he would shake it off and take a step up. Pretty soon, everyone was amazed as the donkey stepped up over the edge of the well and happily trotted off. Now, life, this is the moral, right? This is what you live by. Life is going to shovel dirt on you, and all kinds of dirt. And the trick is to getting out of the well is to shake it off and take a step up. Each of our troubles is a stepping stone. We can get out of the deepest wells just by not stopping, never giving up, ever. Shake it off and take a step up. And I think that's what you have done in this lifetime.
Love it. I think there's more to the story, though. I think the donkey gets out, and I think he bites the farmer in the ass. The farmer gets infected, and he dies.
Oh.
So the moral of the story is, if you ever try to cover your ass, it's going to come back to bite you.
Okay, touche, El Donkey. Glenn, I am excited to see where this podcast goes. There's so much more to your story, and I'm excited to explore further what we're going to uncover and as we talk about your success. And the next episode, we'll go further into your career, business, and your amazing marriage, your family, and all the things that make you who you are. And then throughout this podcast, we're going to talk to some of your colleagues who have also experienced grit and have overcome, and some of the organizations you're part of. And we're going to delve into all the nuggets that you covered in Undercover Billionaire, which is available on iTunes. And I think it will create some more insight and inspiration to the man behind the myth, the legend, my husband.
Well,
You are.
But let me tell you, I'm excited for that part. I mean, my history, great. I can't wait for us to get through this because I do want to move on to a lot of things that have happened in our lives that I think would be great lessons for other people that maybe they can learn from, live off of, whatever you want to call it. That's exciting. Get some people in here that we both know that have amazing stories. But yeah, I'm glad we got through kind of the past mostly, and I can't wait to move on to talk to people that I think are going to be able to really instill some great wisdom to some people out there.
Well, you're a great example of a diamond who has shined under incredible grit, pressure, and time. And I'm so honored, and I love you. And you know what? Join us again for the next episode. More with Glenn Stearns. This is Grit Happens.